Burbank, California, 1941, in the midst of World War II events. During this time, the Lockheed Corporation is one of the main targets for being bombed by the Japanese, not only because they are on American soil, but because they have secret American strategies and plans, and the aircrafts built at the plant are capable of destruction for the Japanese areas too.
Colonel John F. Omer started Operation Camouflage in 1941. He did this by hiring local Hollywood prop makers to create a huge camouflage covering the plant to protect the vital Lockheed Martin facility in Burbank, California from bombing. Colonel John F. Omer's skill in this field prevented the Japanese from seeing this building and saved the facility. After the attack on Pearl Harbor, large American companies are scared that they will also be bombed just the same as the harbor. Once word has been spread about possible Japanese attacks, companies involved in American war operations such as Lockheed immediately start conferring about plans on how to prepare for the possible attacks. And they also have to be on close lookout for submarines such as the ones used for the Pearl Harbor attack, planes, and more.
Witness Mary Jane Strickland says, "Because you walk out the door and you're right on the main street in Burbank," she said. "It's like, who didn't know it was there? It was like a big secret that was not a secret at all."
The Lockheed Corporation was founded in 1912 as an American aerospace company. At the time, they happened to be one of the top 10 manufacturers in America. Planes produced during World War II include the successful P-38 Lightning model and Ventura.
Already orders of all planes into air have been put into motion. Adding on to that, the company is already packed with orders of planes and bombs for the military. It's a risk just to put this operation to progress. Thousands of planes are being made and tested daily, and there can't be any distractions.
Not only has this been necessary before, but millions of military aircrafts are in danger, but not to mention hundreds of lives and the risk of American information to be lost too. With the stakes set high, the company must think of something great but fast. Stationed about 70 miles away, coincidentally at Engineer Camouflage School, Marchfield, California, Colonel John F. Omer was called to help the Lockheed Corporation make a plan to resist the bombing. Hoping his engineer and aerospace experience will keep the operation successful, he was brought into the operation. Coincidentally, John is a pioneer to camouflage with experience of deception techniques.
John Francis Omer was born in Dayton, Ohio, July 3, 1891. Before he worked with creating camouflage, he worked with his father's company as an apprentice until 1914. During war times, he was stationed at the Marchfield Camouflage Training Station before arriving as the head of the Lockheed operation. He was the president of the Omer Mechanical Engineers, founded in 1945. He started off in the military in 1909, assisting in major operations like the 1938 camouflage operation for the 604th Engineer Battalion.
He also assisted the March 1941 Hawaiian camouflage operation. When Lockheed found Mr. Omer, they realized he was their best bet.
Originally based off of camouflage efforts during the Battle of Britain, Omer's main ideas of camouflaging the plane with a tarp above the area was initially rejected. Perhaps the company was looking for something less risky.
But in the wake of the attack on Pearl Harbor, Omer was given the power to do what he felt was best to help resist the plant from getting bombed. There were really no other options.
The problem with the threats is it disrupts the successful pattern of production and may even decrease the amount of products made. And how will this operation be successful is one of the more popular questions employees and directors had to consider. Even if the camouflage is successful, what happens if the enemy drops bombs anyways and destroys the camouflage? Will the destruction of that probability give us away? What if there just isn't enough time? All of these questions add up to what everyone had to consider before putting this insane plan into reality. So, Omer's plan was put into action. The plan was put in place to strategically craft a clever camouflage disguise. But, of course, he can't do acres worth of camouflage with 53,000 employees and make important airplanes for war purposes.
He hires local Hollywood prop makers, painters, prop men, and more from various movie companies such as Paramount, 20th Century Fox, and the successful beginner company Disney are immediately set to the job. After the government has discovered details about the operation, it is decided that the government will sponsor the operation. They are immediately set to work, and it's a successful start. The theme of the camouflage is to look like a farmland suburb. The painters and prop makers that were hired by Colonel Omers used lots of materials. They made fake trees and shrubs using chicken wire along with adhesive and feathers to add texture and sort of a leafy look to the camouflage to also add a look resembling to the alfalfa fields. The main material used is a stitched cloth material named burlap. With the camouflage needing to be maybe 34 air bases in total, it's necessary that the prop men are creative with the materials they use. Of course, they need the camouflage to look believable. They added many different things you would find in a normal California suburb, like fake cul-de-sacs, roads, houses, and more. They also positioned cars to add the effect of the camouflage as shown here.
Under the elaborate camouflage, there were walkways to allow movement through the city and plant, and air ducts to provide proper ventilation. For stability, concrete blocks and metal poles were added around the area to keep the camouflage steady in case of wind or other weather conditions. This was also important that it stay steady because not only did the area serve as a manufacturing company base, but as one of the Los Angeles air bases.
Though taking many months, the project is going successfully without bankruptcy or issues. There is no known time for when the community will be hit, so that makes it extra important that they are on schedule and working productively. But unfortunately, from underneath, the camouflage looks bad in places, with plaster and goop leaking through, she said, and the bunkers seem too small to hold all the workers, says Ms. Strickland, remarking the camouflage's flaws.
Once it was nearly complete, Omer wanted to test the camouflage to know if it was convincing enough to trick the enemies. He had constant searches and sent War Department generals on flights about 5,000, maybe 30 feet up above ground. He asked the general to find the plant, and all that was reported was an ordinary California suburb. Though seeming from above as a kickback suburb for Californians, about 33 feet below, employees and families are prepared for impact with bomb shelters and volunteers on the lookout armed with guns. Also, they are still working for military in production, even to complete orders of engines, making a total of 19,000 aircraft during wartime.
With a close lookout set, officers are sent up while progress is being made to continuously check if they are running on track. After a few weeks, the excruciating progress is finally near completion. But it's not time to celebrate quite yet. Even though the making of the camouflage is done, the real test is now. All the base can do is wait for impact. Many of the finishing touches are being continuously added on during this time.
One employee with the name Bob Klinger worked during this time of this operation. It had been a well-known plant before the war began, so I guess they figured, oh well, the Japanese know it's here, but we'll camouflage it and they won't be sure what they got, Klinger says when he describes the operation.
Another employee with the name Mary Jane Strickland worked at Lockheed during World War II in the plant assembly line, specifically working on assembling P-38 aircrafts. Well, we did think it was all sort of funny, Mrs. Strickland remarked. It was not until years later that she saw photos of the operation and came to appreciate it, says the Daily News in the interview.
It was often said that if anything got past the security, it would be a miracle, said Strickland, a founder of the Burbank Historical Society. She worked at a nearby facility, but that area was never camouflaged. I didn't know quite why, she says. I didn't even notice it too much, Klinger says when talking about the camouflage. It seemed we were pretty busy doing our own thing, Klinger continued. This quote from Mr. Klinger lets us know how natural the camouflage must have looked.
After holding up the camouflage for months, the attacks are no longer a threat to Lockheed. Eventually, the life-saving camouflage is taken down carefully, and the events in 1941 go down in history as one of America's greatest war efforts during that time. Now, one of the camouflage pieces remains in an American museum.
In conclusion, Operation Camouflage was a successful operation that shaped the camouflage world. Colonel Omer and the Lockheed Corporation took a stand against the Japanese instead of just letting the corporation get bombed.